And so yeah.
I was gonna make a point because I had a car, like the first car that I ever bought for myself, the little Mustang that I had it for multiple years, and that thing, like every mechanic I took it to, they were like, why did you buy this car? Because it had like a ticking in the engine, and they're like, who knows, this thing might run for you for a little while, but at some point, it might be tomorrow, it might be years from now, it's going to blow up on you. That car lasted me until the day after I bought my van. As soon as I bought my van, the next day, the power steering ran out. I was driving it to a mechanic, and then the engine blew up. Not like blew up, but like, it was like smoking on fire, wouldn't drive, had to like push it off of the busy street.
I mean, I know exactly what you mean. The car that I had before mine, the one that I just bought, I was going out of the freeway, and it just turned off. Like
was this before? No, this was before you got your car though, right?
Yeah, this was a really long time ago.
Yeah,
this happened like a really long time, and I've been I was really rooting for that car. Like, I was really rooting to I'm like, look, if I really don't have to spend this much money, if I don't gotta pay insurance, if I don't gotta pay for this note, as long as I possibly can. And then it was causing me just a little too much anxiety to be like freaking out about whether or not I was gonna make it to work.
Yeah,
at any given time.
I mean, I understand the anxiety,
but no.
There's some poor tendencies but it's like a lot of there's some tendencies that I have because they're poor tendencies because I'm like, yo, I grew up like this, I can't help it. Like the food, I have a tough time giving up certain things because I'm like, no, what if I need it later? Yeah. Like I you know what I mean? So I might hoard a little bit of some stuff every now and then. But even then, I'm trying to think can you think of something that, that I do that it's like we're like, oh yeah, that's.
I have a couple poor tendencies. I feel like my biggest, and actually kind of start spreading it around to people, is I keep all the little ketchup packets and stuff.
Okay, I don't do that.
I do that. I do that at work. So now every time because we order out a lot at work. So once we go pick up our food and everybody gets their stuff, any leftover barbecue packets, any
but I do value
stuff like that. We literally have a bowl full of them now because in my mind I have to think about it like mom. That's like, what if I have to bring a hot dog to work and I need ketchup? And I'm not about to bring a whole thing of ketchup with me. So it's just this tendency of don't throw it away if you don't have to.
Yeah. Okay. You know? I will say I think I have that one too, which is funny because there are some things that I do that he doesn't follow. That even the toothpaste. The toothpaste will get to the end of the tube.
Yeah.
And there's still a little bit left in there, but he's just ready to move on to the next tube. He's just I'm just gonna get in it, and I'm over here squeezing the shit out of it and opening the cap and until the last drop comes out.
I'm sure I do. I'm sure I have a ton. You know what I mean? But I have to make a differentiation because some of them are I got some poor tendencies, and then others are this is a personal choice. This is a choice that I'm making currently right now, not because I can't do something otherwise, but because one, the having something nicer is not important enough to me.
Okay.
That it justifies it doing it just for the sake of getting something nice.
Okay.
And two, on a financial level, it makes more sense to me and my goals to be more frugal about certain things.
Of course. Yeah.
Just so that I can make other things happen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, you've always been like that.
My car, as much as people really people really have a right to hate on me for my car. Moms be doing it it's a hoopty, but I love that car and I won't give it up. And at least at the moment, because because it's got a whole bunch of fucked up shit wrong with it, and it's affected me in optics wise, right? We've talked about dates and things like that. I've had that dog for a long time. Believe me, women have been looked at my car and been yo, I'm not sure if I want to do, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Which is totally fair. I get it. People want to be superficial and I can't get mad at you for it or whatever. But I've always had very specific goals. So I'm just do I get a new whip, even if it's a cheap one, even if it's whatever, or do I use that money instead to try to do this and this and that? And I oftentimes, more often than not, will choose getting new equipment, getting new camera stuff, getting new, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I haven't bought clothes in a long time. I haven't been and I will if I need to, but I will keep it as bare minimum as possible, and I wouldn't even necessarily consider myself a true minimalist, but I will keep it as minimal as possible, just because I've got other goals, other things that I'm trying to accomplish. That I'm just like, those take priority.
This is definitely something that you do now. Because there was a good moment in time that I remember that you would like shop at Banana Republic all the time.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And like you would always come in with new coats and clothes that were more expensive, higher quality, all these other things.
Best believe if I go buy clothes, I'm gonna go buy some nice clothes.
Yeah.
Like
And like for instance, I also think it has to do with your age though, because you're 30 years old, so you think about things way differently than you did when you were 23.
Sure.
So while you might have the same goals that you might have had at 23 years old and at 30 years old, the way that you chose to do certain things might have, like the situations that you were in as a 23-year-old might have affected you a little bit differently than they do now.
Yeah. Yes and no. I would say yes. You're right. Like at 23, I might have flossed out a little bit more. And
I mean,
that was always my taste.
You bought that car when you could have bought a cheaper one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And at the time, that car was a little bit better.
And you were like, oh yeah, I have to. You wanted to have a nicer looking car. And the clothes that I've always worn, the shoes that I've always worn, like I don't necessarily have like cheap taste. No, you don't.
Even like the liquor that I like, the watches that I like, things like that. But like, are they necessary? Right now, probably not.
And I definitely feel like it changed as you were getting older and you started being
I wouldn't even say it changed as me getting older. It changed whenever I was fed up with not having the not being closer to the goals that I wanted.
So not necessarily with age.
Yeah, it's not because I like matured. It was because I was like, no, I want to accomplish this, and I can't get there if I do this or if I do that or if I do this or like this is getting in the way or like spending too much on food or spending this and that. So like I had to like then kind of like change and discipline myself a little bit differently. And Bree could be a testament to this, because when we were at the duplex 2 years ago, I just showed up one day. Actually, no, I mentioned it a couple months back. Like,
that you were buying a house
during the pandemic. Like I think I'm gonna buy a house, and then like that conversation didn't go anywhere. And then like 4 months later, I was like, we gotta go.
You come in with boxes and shit, and you're like, hey, we gotta start packing for what?
We gotta buy.
My house is like
my house just got done being built.
Yeah,
like. It wasn't even like you know what I mean, and now we're here and it's a badass house, and so like it's one of those things like if you judge me off my hoopty, you'll be like, yo, this boy is dusty. But if you judge me off my house, you're like, oh, what do you do for a living?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And then you hear what I do for a living, and you're like, wait, how'd you manage to pull that off? Because I can. Because you guys, you know what I mean.
I know.
That's the point that I'm making, is that like a lot of the things that I have done. Certain behaviors in those ambitions, you can label them as poor tendencies, but I would label them more as like me understanding that I don't have the kind of access that somebody else would have. So I have to discipline myself a little differently in order to be able to achieve some of the things that I want to achieve.
You're very disciplined. You're a very disciplined person.
But I will say that growing up poor helped. Because if I had grown up in a very specific kind of lifestyle, going below that and having to accustom myself to behaviors that like are attributed to being poor might have been like an ego trip. You know what I mean? But I was always very comfortable being like, oh, like I'm running low on funds, or I can't spend that money because in a month I have to do this and this and that. Okay, so we're just gonna buy like 69-cent tunas and just like grow up on those for a week.
And
like,
you know what's crazy though? Like that, it's so funny though, because you say that you're like, you grew up poor or grew up, and we technically grew up together, but like I don't have that same mentality.
Yeah, you don't.
Because I grew up with everything. Like mom and dad had everything at my disposal when I was hitting the ages where it mattered.
Or where you could remember
where
things.
I could remember, or where it was actually affecting my social consciousness. Like
when you were born, we were still struggling.
Y'all were in the little house, didn't have nothing. And then when I was getting into the age of like my preteens and teenage, years, I had my own room. I had
you
my
had
own,
everything
I had my
already.
own restroom. I had a phone. I had a computer. I had everything.
Yeah.
I had a meal
I
every
didn't
single day.
I didn't get a cell phone till I was 17 when I left the house.
And I had a phone at like 12.
Right.
11.
I didn't have my own room until I was like maybe 13 or something like that.
No. Well, yeah.
Something like that. I shared a room with mom and dad for
a really long
the
time.
first like 8 years.
Yeah.
8 years.
No,
like you were,
and, like-
and with you also, because you were born, I was 6. So even after that, like we didn't move into the house in Second Ward until a while from there, and even then, like
Y'all still stayed living
we all
in the same
were
room.
just sharing a
Yeah.
room together. So
And those experiences shaped you because you remember them. I don't know about them because I
And
was a baby.
those
So-
experiences sucked a lot. Like you look back and you're like, man, that shit was wild.
Yeah.
Like we were really struggling. But in terms of like my goals and where I want to go in my life, I have to say that they've been kind of helpful.